And now, starting off on the newspapers, I will not go without mentioning this issue on the party differences that we are witnessing, and maybe just trying to understand what really informs the decisions that lies within the sort of allocation of funds at that party level. We've seen the differences that are coming aboard as to the party funds that have been given, to NASA, and of course now ODM claiming that they will take the entire 4 billion for themselves, and considering the likes of Wiper Party and ANC and Ford Kenya as not a part of the NASA coalition. What is your take on this, being the deputy party leader of Wiper?
We actually, it's very interesting because when we were coming together as NASA, there was an elaborate agreement on the political party kitty sharing. And it was decided at that we were going to share it. And that was signed fully by all three parties. All three parties signed that, and they participated in the deliberations in Serena on that. Now, I have a problem with the felicity to honesty and certain things when it comes to money on the part of some of the party leaders in that coalition. And I've seen that many times in the past. So to hear this happening right now, to treat it like it's, other party members who are saying that we're going to keep these things. Raila Odinga is the one who was there when we signed it, when we agreed, and we literally gave a press conference on that as part of the coalition agreement. Now, if you can't trust him with that, I don't even know how you can trust him in the country. And I'm talking about Raila Odinga in this straight, because that was a very basic thing. It was an agreement that informed, among other things, the coming together of all these three political parties. And to eliminate also possibilities of there being internecine war, to an intra-coalition wars in the different constituencies. Because many parties did not field candidates in many parts of the country where they felt the fielding of either an ANC party, what do you call ANC candidate or Wiper candidate, or the parties that formed the NASA coalition, would create, would allow Jubilee or any other party to win in that process. There was that give and take. And one of the things that were agreed on as a basis for that harmony was the fact that we were going to share the political party's kitty. Yeah, for them to come out again and say that we're not going to share
You're not part of the party, as far as they're concerned.
It's never comes as a surprise to me, because I know that dishonesty. We've been together, we've been working for a very long time.
At what point should the clarity of the party come in, from the registrar of parties, or...?
Look, that agreement is there, and that agreement has got to be tankered to the registrar of parties. And the coalition, the concept of coalition also is contained in the Political Parties Act itself. You see what I mean?
Yes.
So I think in the end, if it doesn't work out in a harmonious way, we'll then certainly go to the Political Parties Tribunal and seek a ruling on that. And I can assure you that's not going to be a very favorable ruling to ODM. But that tells you where politics is in this country. It's all about money.
It's all about money.
It's all about money. People run into these things as party leaders and run for the presidency and everything else, at times for no other reason than raising funds. You get my point? You really wonder whether somebody wants to become a president. And just because of that, the fundraising concept itself, in which you raise billions, and that's never seen by the political parties or the coalitions at the end of the day, which is just taken away by the leaders, or a leader for that matter, is basically what informs the entire discourse of our own contemporary political contestation in the country. So that's one thing I think Kenyans need to understand. That's why it's easy as long as the money is there, it's easy to cut a deal. It's all about deals. It's all about deals.
It's all about deals.
The stuff you see that comes out in a flash and everything else of talking about ideals and values.
Which is something that we need to actually discuss.
It's absolute nonsense. I hate to see that kind of hypocrisy on the part of political party leaders. Outfits and leaders. And the fact that you have this powerful, gullible society that buys into that easily. We have one of the best, most educated societies in the continent, or countries in the continent. But they're so gullible, you find professionals, scholars, everybody else on that bandwagon, literally being just sycophants for an individual And that essentially will have a long way to go.
Certainly.
Over that, yes.
Yes, Franklin, would also want to seek your sentiments on that just briefly, because then again, within this intra-parties, these party setups, we see the differences in the intra-setup. But then again, these differences have also been witnessed on different parties. We've seen the small parties crying foul as to how the distribution of the kitties or the funds are done. You know, there's that level of course, they would say there's some level of, unfairness in how of course, political parties are treated. So the small political parties crying foul. And we see this urge and with this fight as to the question of money, a clear indication that, like what Mheshimiwa says, is a question of money. And these are the very same outfits that we look forward to see taking Kenya to the next level. What does it speak about our formation of parties and the policies within us, and whether it was a wise move for us to go into multi-partyism?
Linda, it has nothing to do with having multi-party systems. Part of the financing from the exchequer of political parties was designed to reduce the influence of private money.
Yes.
The idea was essentially to stop the buying of candidates during elections. Party funding, and if parties, as Yash Pagai keeps pointing out, which of the parties are truly national in scope and are registered, and because the Constitution requires a national outlook, a national perspective in the political parties. But party funding was put into the system to eliminate or mitigate corruption. And yet, so we now find squabbling between a coalition of parties that was cobbled together before the last elections, basically. We have large parties cobbled together for elections, demanding money from the exchequer, and then still accepting vast amounts of contributions from who knows who. And I think there's the problem. You know, campaign financing everywhere in the world can be problematic. It's certainly problematic in the United States as well, where the parties, the candidates seem to be raising vast amounts of money for advertising and the like. We don't have the same element of candidates taking the money home from the campaign kiddies. And when we have had a number of incidents, and those people are in jail, congressmen, candidates, they're in jail. But the idea of allowing for private financing of political campaigns in the United States is deemed to be a First Amendment freedom of speech right. In other words, if the government finances political parties and you stop all private contributions, end of story, it means you're denying people the opportunity to influence the elections their own way. Now, this is a push and pull all the time. Here, on the other hand, the amount of money that's given by the exchequer doesn't seem to stop any of the private fundraising. And private fundraising can also be in the form of services. But when you see our politicians flying around in helicopters and in big SUVs, flying off to Europe to wish somebody's wife a fast recovery from hospital or anything like that, where is all this money coming from? And so the logic of public funding of campaigns has been lost again, less than 9 years after the Constitution was promulgated. So it's not about multi-partyism. It's really about venality and greed, and our inability to really pay attention to what the intentions are of various provisions in the Constitution.
Sadly enough, and of course, even as we witness these differences within NASA, of course, difference to do with, the sharing of seats at that committee level, and equally the sharing, or of course, the distribution of funds, there's also that talk that has been there as to the differences that we witness in Jubilee. And of course, President Uhuru Kenyatta's visit to, Deputy President William Ruto's stronghold was probably a move that was welcomed by very many people, a clear indication that maybe this cuts down or maybe bridges the gap that has been there between the Team Kieleweke and Team Tanga Tanga. But sadly enough, working up to the newspapers this morning, or maybe the events of yesterday, it's a clear indication that it's not the case. And looking at the front page of the Standard newspaper, also something that has been highlighted, there's that highlight of it on the Daily Nation front pages, and equally on the Star newspaper. We have differences as to what is playing out, and now there's this move by Uhuru allies sort of to back Tuju on the utterances that you were talking about that we saw the other day, and the phone conversation that was ongoing as to him trying to threaten Ruto and to saying that moving forward there needs to be action taken, and just excited at how much he should be facing the downfall. So different utterances and reactions coming out from the likes of Murathe, whom sort of ceased to be the party chair and officially talking, or maybe also weighing in his sentiments. According to Murathe, he says they should leave him alone. I don't think he said anything wrong. That is Tuju, and they should be happy. Tuju reminded them it's time to heal the country. Murathe also, in his very own sentiment, says that President Uhuru Kenyatta cannot leave power or cannot leave the country to a thief. That is according to the Star newspaper. That is what he says, and of course this in reference to Deputy President Dr. William Ruto. Another utterance right here by Igembe North, a member of Parliament, Maoka Maore, says that those who have put up the Tuju name are deliberately doing it now to water down the president's message. And also by Cheranganyi, member of Parliament Joshua Kutuni, saying that this could be intentional to eliminate people closer to the president from the party, and we will not allow it. So this hulabaloo within the Jubilee Party and that finger pointing at Deputy President William Ruto constantly, what does it spell for the country?
Well, it's we are in a fairy tale kind of a situation. And you wonder the audacity of politicians, the presumption that everybody else is a fool in this country and they're the only ones who can. It's a bit of a cannibalism within themselves. Yeah. It's an internecine war. I don't think anybody's fighting for anybody else or against anybody else. Everybody's fighting for himself or herself in this case. It's going to unravel, and there are going to be a lot of disappointments because people in, for example, the ODM fraternity and yeah. ODM are of the opinion that Uhuru is going to hand over power to Raila.
And also today on the newspaper, they claim that, that allegation that is being leveled against Right Honorable Raila Odinga, that is the one who's causing the rift in Jubilee Party, should stop.
Yes. So it's the presumption that this is going to be handed over to him. I don't think that anybody will, Uhuru or anybody else in that camp, is going to hand over power to Raila in a million years. That I can assure you. Yeah. Maybe some kind of a ceremonial place, like a ceremonial president, because the constitution is going to be changed. So this is it's a brute. What do you call deep state war? Okay. Deep state war. It has nothing to do with the interests of Kenyans. It has nothing to do with corruption. When you say it's not going to hand over to a thief, tell me who is not a thief.
Exactly.
Yeah, tell me.
That will be the question.
Who is not a thief? I mean, my friend, brother, is a good friend of mine. Tell me who is not a thief. The one you don't want that? There's a very interesting statement which was done by a very renowned Jew who said in the past, we used to call anti-Semite somebody who doesn't like Jews. Yeah. Nowadays, an anti-Semite is somebody who Jews don't like. My friend Andrew is a good friend of mine. He's a Jew also. I'm sure he understands what I'm talking about.
Word of life.
So basically, if Netanyahu doesn't like you, he'll call you an anti-Semite. Yes. Because he doesn't want, he basically wants everything. And that essentially is what is now evolving in here. Anybody who doesn't like anybody else will call him a thief and a corrupt person. But it's within that same corruption. Where did they get all that wealth from? Where did it come from? Where did all this, these same people who are calling one another names are the wealthiest 10 people in the country or 10 entities in the country. And then you see is the issue of a charcoal calling kettle black or the other way around. and the poor Njiku is up there always one time clapping for this, the other time clapping for the other. So there is a lack of serious, patriotic, middle-class Kenyans who are coming out and saying, look, we don't care about you all. Right. And the reason why this country is going to be left behind by every other country in the region except Uganda, I'm not quite sure about Uganda, because Uganda has also gone into that kind of a despotism.